Have they officially diagnosed or Antonio Brown with it, or we just all know he's got it?
We just all know.
Yeah. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Sports Central. I'm your host, Jackson Bickers.
And I'm Peyton Price. We've had a very exciting week of sports, so let's waste no time and jump right in.
After a dominating home opening victory against Wagner last week, Central Michigan football opened up its first game in MAC play at Kelly Schwartz Stadium last Saturday against the Eastern Michigan Eagles. The Chippewas offense began the game on a hot start as quarterback Joe Labus connected with Tommy McIntosh for a 47-yard completion on the very first play of the game. The drive would continue on the ground with chunk runs from quarterback Angel Flores and running back Nari Biggins, bringing the Maroon and Gold down to the 1-yard line. One play later, Joe Labus found Brock Townsend for an incredible one-handed touchdown grab. Central's offense didn't stop there as running back Nari Biggins would take a 49-yard run to the house on the very next drive to increase the Central Michigan lead 14-0 in the first quarter. CMU would then continue to dominate in the second quarter, putting up another touchdown thanks to Angel Flores, who threw an absolute dime to Langston Lewis in the back of the end zone for Lewis's first score of the year. Eastern Michigan would be able to put up 3 points on the board before halftime, but still found themselves down by 15 at the break. 21-6 in the second half, the Eagles came out ready to play, marching down the field to open up the half with an 8-play, 69-yard drive that closed the CMU lead to 21-13. Luckily, Central's defense would find some stops late in the third, including an interception by Maddox Blackwell to end the quarter. From there, the Maroon and Gold marches 72 yards down the field in 14 plays and just under 8 minutes to lead kicker Cade Graham knock through a 22-yard field goal, increasing the lead for CMU 24-13. Eastern Michigan would attempt a response of their own, driving down the field and attempting a field goal. However, this one did not go their way and was missed wide right. Thanks to the missed field goal, Central could use their powerful rushing attack and run out the clock, finalizing the contest 24-13. The victory marks the first MAC victory under head coach Matt Drinkle and puts the Chippewas on top of the Mid-American Conference with a 1-0 conference record. Central Michigan will look to keep their winning streak intact as they hit the road once again this week to face the Akron Zips in Ohio on Saturday.
Central Michigan volleyball broke into conference play this past week, playing a 5-set thriller on back-to-back days. Starting in DeKalb, the squad took their first 2 sets against the NIU Huskies, winning the first by a double-digit margin. The Huskies would adjust, though, taking the next 2 sets despite Central putting up another 22 and 23 points respectively. Facing a potential reverse sweep, the Chippewas started the 5th set on a 4-0 scoring run, but the NIU response would be too much to contain, falling 15-11 for a loss to open MAC play. There were still some bright spots, with Natalia Raymond and Taylor Kripe each contributing 17 kills and combining for 19 digs. Alina Anderson tallied up 26 digs in a solid defensive effort. The squad didn't have much time to reflect, with a match in Kalamazoo the very next day, taking on Western Michigan. The 2 sides traded sets in what was an absolute thriller, with all but the 5th ending in a 2-point difference. The Broncos would kick it into high gear, though, and when it mattered most, ultimately topping the Chippewas 15-8. Handing them their second conference loss. Raymond would put on another strong showing with 16 kills and 19 digs, and Keelan Mill racked up a season-high 57 assists. The Chippewas now get a full week of rest and practice before their home opener, taking on Toledo this Friday at 6.
The Central Michigan women's soccer team looked to build off the momentum of their first goal of the season as they hosted Toledo on September 25th for a game underneath the lights in Mount Pleasant. Both offenses started out slow, with neither team finding the back of the net in the first half. Despite some close calls from the Chippewas early in the second half, however, CMU was able to change things up as Melena Troy served a cross into the 6-yard box that freshman Jimena Perez Ayala was able to finish off for the Chippewas' first lead of the 2025 season. Unfortunately for the Maroon and Gold, the Rockets quickly answered back, taking advantage of some late Chippewa substitutions to tie the game at 1 apiece. Late in the game, Toledo threatened to score again on a shot just a few feet away from the net, but junior goalkeeper Briley Borgman secured the clutch save and ultimately kept the game tied up where it would stay 1-1. CMU then hit the road to face off in a MAC showdown against Bowling Green on Sunday. This one unfortunately did not go the Chippewas' way as the Falcons netted 4 goals in this one, downing Central 4-0. CMU will look to get back on track in conference play this week as they play host to two MAC opponents, first on Tuesday hosting NIU before welcoming UMass to Mount Pleasant on Sunday.
Central Michigan's men and women's cross-country seasons are underway. The Chippewas men's team opened up at the 40th annual Jeff Drenth Memorial 5K. In this race, 10 Chippewas would get new PRs. Finishing highest for CMU was Nick Cockerell in third and Ethan Leitner in fifth. Overall, the men's team finished in second place. The men would then travel to Kalamazoo to compete in the George Dales Classic. They would finish in fourth place out of 9 teams. The fastest times for the Chippewas were Ethan Leitner running a 25:22 and Jason Fredericks with a 25:31. CMU's women's team also opened up their season with the Jeff Drenth Memorial Race. The team placed third out of 10 teams. Kaya Hoffman led the team with a time of 17:38. After a good start to the season, the Chippewas would travel to Kalamazoo to also compete in the George Dales Classic. As a team, CMU finished again in third of 10 teams. Kaya Hoffman would lead the team once more, this time getting into the top 10 running a 21:23. You can catch the men's and women's cross-country teams in action Friday, October 3rd in the Lehigh for the Paul Short Classic.
Another thrilling week of Central Michigan athletics is in the books. We look forward to seeing how all our athletics perform in Mid-American Conference play this season.
After the break, we take a deep dive into the MLB postseason and get you an update on Week 4 of the NFL. Don't go anywhere.
Look at me. Hey.
Raymond, look at Mommy.
Maybe the light hurts his eyes.
Maybe she's just not hungry.
Maybe he can't hear us.
Maybe we're not stimulating him enough. Maybe it's a phase.
Avoiding eye contact is one early sign of autism. Learn the others today. The sooner it's diagnosed, the better.
For more blocked field goals and to the second highest scoring tie in NFL history, Week 4 of the NFL season presented tons of fireworks. During Sunday's slate of action, the Buffalo Bills beat the New Orleans Saints 31-19, and the Eagles beat the Buccaneers 31-25. Both these teams moved to 4-0 on the season and are the last remaining undefeated teams in the NFL. The NFL also traveled to Ireland for the first time, with the Steelers and Vikings clashing in Dublin. It was Steelers who would find the pot of gold in the Emerald Isle, taking this one 24-21. Good job, yay Steelers! Superstar edge Aiden Hutchinson continued his welcome back tour for the Lions in the Motown. He would put on a show for the hometown crowd with 2 sacks and a forced fumble against the Browns, guiding the Lions to a 34-10 victory. It wouldn't be the 2025 NFL season if we didn't have a game-winning blocked field goal. Now would it? This time, the block resided in Las Vegas as the Raiders kicker Daniel Carlson set up for a 54-yard field goal that was blocked by the Bears, giving them a 25-24 win. Sunday Night Football was a headline matchup for fans to tune into as Micah Parsons made his return to Dallas after being traded to the Green Bay Packers in August. What looked to be Packers' domination to start turned into a good old-fashioned Texas shootout. The two teams went back and forth and were knotted up at 37 after 60 minutes. Both the Cowboys and the Packers could only muster a field goal in overtime, making this the second highest scoring tie in NFL history at 40-40.
Major League Baseball wrapped up its regular season this week, which means it's time for the playoffs here in October. It was a historic season for a few players, including Seattle Mariners catcher Cal Raleigh, who set the record for the most home runs by a catcher in a single season with 60 long balls this season and helping the Mariners secure the second seed in the AL. Dodgers pitcher Clayton Kershaw, who recently announced that he is retiring at the end of the 2025 MLB season, might have made his final start on the bump for the Dodgers. The future Hall of Famer collected his 3,000th career strikeout, which is just another career milestone in his lengthy Hall of Fame bid. The Dodgers star pitcher will end his career with a record of 222 wins and 96 losses, supporting a career .254 ERA and also finding himself with 3,052 career strikeouts. Congratulations, 22. Can't wait to see you in Cooperstown in the near future. Now let's talk playoffs. 12 teams make the playoffs with the new expanded format that the MLB implemented a few years ago. Let's start in the National League. The division winners were the Milwaukee Brewers, who won the NL Central with a record of 97-65. In the NL East, the Philadelphia Phillies won their division at 96-66, and in the NL West, to no one's surprise, went to the LA Dodgers with an impressive 93-69 record, despite being in one of the toughest divisions in all of baseball. The Chicago Cubs, San Diego Padres, and the Cincinnati Reds make up the wild card crew after the New York Mets blew their playoff hopes against the Miami Marlins. Now looking to the American League. The AL Central has been a wildfire this year as the Detroit Tigers led the division by 15.5 games on July 8th, but entering the final week, the lead had narrowed to just 1 game. The hometown Tigers lost 5 of 6 against the Guardians in the final 2 weeks, along with 14 of their last 20 games, to throw away the division to the Guardians in the final week of the year. The Tigers' fall from grace marks the largest division collapse in MLB history and throws the Tigers as the 6th seed, coincidentally facing off against the Guardians in the wildcard round. The Mariners took home the AL West, while in the AL East, the Toronto Blue Jays won the division with the New York Yankees and Boston Red Sox both sneaking in as wildcard teams. The MLB postseason swings into action Tuesday, September 30th, with the Tigers facing off against the Guardians at 1 p.m. Speaking of swinging, some major blows were traded this week in this week's UFC fights in Australia. Cooper Swackheimer has more on those fights.
Thanks, Peyton. This past weekend, the UFC hosted an event in Perth, Western Australia, with Carlos Ulberg and Dominic Reyes headlining this fight night. On the main card, there was a total of 4 stoppages with 3 submissions and 1 knockout, which came in the main event. Tim Nolan submitted Charlie Campbell in the first round, which earned him a Performance of the Night bonus. Neil Magny submitted Jake Matthews in a very controversial stoppage where many fans and fighters thought Magny was out cold in the first round. Jack Jenkins won against Ramon Tavares after their fight went to a decision. Jimmy Crute won by submission in the first round against Ivan Erslan, which led him to earn a Performance of the Night bonus. Finally, in the main event, Carlos Ulberg knocks out Dominic Reyes in the first round, which earned him another Performance of the Night bonus and sets him up perfectly for the next title shot at light heavyweight. All Performance of the Night winners earned an extra $50K bonus on their payout. After this win for Ulberg, it pushes him in his win streak up to 9 and sends Reyes back to the drawing board and to figure out what's next after losing his 3-fight win streak. Next week, on October 4th, the UFC is back on pay-per-view, where fan favorite Alex Pereira looks to regain his light heavyweight title against Magomed Ankalaev. Also on that card is Merab Dvalishvili defending his bantamweight title against Corey Sandhagen, and Yuri Prochazka takes on Khalil Roundtree Jr. in a light heavyweight title eliminator to see who will be next for the winner in the main event. Finally, on October 11th, the UFC returns to Brazil, where Charles do Bronx Oliveira returns to take on his short-notice opponent, Mateusz Gamrot, for what will surely make each of their cases for why they should be considered for the next title shot at lightweight. That's all for the updates on the UFC for now. Coming up, we bring you another edition of Game Time with our rendition of Around the Horn.
Cook foods to the right temperature using a food thermometer. 3,000 Americans will die from food poisoning this year. Keep your family safer. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov.
I think someone at my friend's school has this thing called autism. My friend's brother's son has autism. My neighbor's son has autism. My son has autism.
Autism is getting closer to home. Today, 1 in 68 children is diagnosed with autism. That's about a 30% increase in 2 years. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
Welcome back to Sports Central. Today we got another rendition of Around the Horn. So how this is going to work, I'm going to give these guys over here a topic. We got Lucas, Eli, Brant, and our host Peyton over there. I'm going to give them a topic, then I'm going to grade them depending on their points or whatever takes they got. So the first question I got for you guys is how the Tigers' regular season ended and then making the playoffs. Do you think the regular season overall for them was a success?
We're going around the horn. We're starting with you, buddy.
All right, we're starting with me. So overall, you know, they started the season super well. Last year, they did really, really well at the end of the year after the All-Star break. This year, they unfortunately kind of fell apart after the All-Star break. And in the month of September, they only had 2 home wins. I believe it was 3 wins overall in the month of September. So realistically, if you ask me, the beginning of the season was a success because they kept up that momentum. And then the end of the year, they just kind of fell apart. And I really think that, if you ask me, it was kind of half and half.
Do you overall it's half and half?
Overall, the beginning of the year was a success. The end of the year was not.
Peyton, I want to hear from you now.
All right, here's what I'm going to say. A winning season and a playoff-making season, no matter what, is a success. Obviously, with the start of the season, and just any season in general, you're going to be hoping for more than what you had. But, again, they start off hot and they start falling apart. So you're always going to think, like, yes, they should have won the division easily. It's true. But the fact that they still have a winning record and they're in the playoffs with a chance to make it to the World Series, for that constitutes as a success for me.
All right, Brant, I want to hear you now. Is the Tigers' regular season a success?
See, I kind of got to agree that, like, yes, the beginning of the season was a success. Right now, kind of been a downturn a little bit. However, I would not qualify a success by something that just has ups and downs. Like, we've had kind of good ups, terrible downs. Like, especially with Cleveland, like the past couple weeks, we've gotten 1 game out of 6 from the past 12 games, and now we're playing them again on the road. And that doesn't really show anything for the postseason. Now, you look back through the rest of the regular season, too. Yeah, you had a lot of good games. You had Riley Green. You know, he's one of our best hitters. Hasn't been able to hit for anything by the end of the season now. And so you also got guys that can return, too. You have Tarek Skubal, our ace, has yet to get a contract extension from the Illiches. They have been extremely stingent with their money, and they seem like it from what they look like, that they just don't want this guy to stick around, or at the very least, they don't want to be able to pay him.
So success or not success?
I would definitely say this has not been a success. 86 wins is very good. However, you can do so much better with the talent that this team has.
Lucas, what do we got on thoughts on the Tigers?
I would like to say that the Tigers' season this year was a success. I say that because I think any season that a team makes the playoffs, that's a success. But I will say, I was extremely disappointed with the lack of roster upgrades they made this season, especially the fact that they made no upgrades to the bullpen whatsoever.
I like that. All right, we're going to move on to question 2 right now. So Central Michigan football, we've had a solid start this season, 3-2. The new head coach Matt Trinkle through 5 games. What are our thoughts on the Matt Trinkle era so far? We'll go right back to you, Lucas.
I would like to say that I'm impressed with the era that we are in. I think that the future for the CMU Chippewas is extremely bright, and I have high hopes for the Chippewas making a bowl game this year.
That puts Lucas at 4 points. We're going to move across the table to Peyton. What are your thoughts on the Matt Trinkle era so far?
I mean, it started off very strong, the win at San Jose State as 14.5-point underdog. So just with that, you start off with a great win to start providing that spark that the team needed. Obviously, they took on 2 tough opponents that they were definitely not expected to win. And then they move on to Wagner. They get their win that they're supposed to get. Then they bring home a win against Eastern Michigan. They get their MAC win. So that is important for the team. We've seen this transition into a 3 starting quarterback, I guess now falling to 2 with the injury to Glasser, but using 3 different quarterbacks, you don't see that barely ever. A lot of teams have this thought that it's not going to work, but it's working now. Matt Trinkle's found it to be working, and while at the start of the season the wide receivers haven't really gotten into play, we're starting to see it now.
Let's jump over to Eli. Thoughts on the Matt Trinkle era 5 games in?
Yeah, you know, I really liked it to start the year. You go to San Jose State, it was, I believe, and you know they go there, they get the win to arguably put him ahead, as well as, you know, you play a tough Pitt team, but personally, I think that they actually looked pretty solid against Pitt, you know? Like, yeah, the second half kind of fell apart, but they had that game within 7 points most of that game until halftime. So, and then, you know, you go to Michigan, and, you know, that's a Big Ten school, so, you know, those guys are getting paid and, you know, all this other stuff. And then, you know, you come back, you bounce back against Wagner, and they took care of business in that one. And then they played Eastern, and with them being able to run Nari Biggins, and then you have Trey Cornist in the backfield, and then you also have Brock Townsend coming in. So you have 3 running backs that can arguably provide. And then as well as, it was either the Wagner game or the Eastern game, Angel Flores at quarterback actually was second on the team in rushing yards. So when you have a quarterback that can come in and also use his legs, as well as Angel Flores is one of the better passers as well in the MAC, I think, this year.
Let's finish up on Brant here. What are your thoughts on Matt Trinkle through 5 games?
I have never been more excited for this CMU crew. I mean, a bowl game appearance would be an objective improvement from the past years. I think we can all agree on that one. You know, you go on the road, San Jose State. It's Coach Trinkle's first game, gets the first road win in 2 years, I believe. That is a huge way to set up this team for the rest of the season, morale-wise and just across the board with fans. Pitt game was very close, like you mentioned, Eli. Very close game. Could have had that one. You knew that the Michigan game was going to be tough. You weren't going to win that one. Come home for your home opener. Wagner, demolish those guys, as you should. And then the first MAC game against Eastern, you clear the board on those guys. You get your first MAC win. Now you have Akron on the road. Those guys, I think, we should be pretty confident against as well. And I think all around across the board, you know, this team is pretty well solid. I mean, we had 300-plus total rushing yards this past Saturday. That's huge for this. Angel Flores, like you mentioned, amazing rusher, can throw the ball. I would say this team would have more success starting Angel over Joe Labus. I will say that with all confidence that Angel Flores should get the start over Labus if this team really. Okay, that's where we have to disagree then.
I think just, you know, the kind of Matt Trinkle offense that they're going, you kind of need the 2 quarterbacks the way they're going. We're going to give you guys a score update, though. We got Eli and Brant tied at 1 apiece. Then we got Peyton and Lucas tied for first place at 4. So we're going to make a little bit of a jump to the NFL. We saw last Thursday night a kickoff land short of the landing zone, which ended up honestly costing the Cardinals that game. Gave Seattle great field position, ended up kicking a game-winning field goal. I'm going to start off with Brant here. Do you like the new kickoff rules and the way that they can affect the game?
See, I'm tied on this one. There's a couple good things, a couple bad things. I mean, for me personally, when it comes to football, I'm a traditionalist, so I do have to lean towards the old school way of the kickoff. You guys have, you know, opposite sidelines come in, just beat the crap out of each other. That's football. That's bully ball football. That's my style of play. But I also understand with the new kickoff rules, you know, you have a lot of problems with injuries in the modern game. You got guys wearing guardian caps. That's fine and all, but I think it really comes down to, you know, like what is really more entertaining here. And so with the kick going short like that, you see that, and like it's such a close game, and like there's such a minor error. It's like, is that really going to decide how this game ends? And so I was not a fan of the new kickoff rules at all this year. I think we should go back to the old school ways, you know. And that game could have ended a lot better. I was actually texting a buddy of mine who was a friend of the Seahawks, or a fan of the Seahawks. I'm like, yeah, I'll be watching this one, but fortunately for him, it went the Seahawks' way.
Let's jump over to you, Peyton. What are your thoughts on this new kickoff rule?
I agree in the fact that it was cooler for the original one, but now we see the difference in you get more kickoff returns this way, and you start seeing the kickers they're evolving to new ways and new strategies of kicking it, because you see a lot of teams now trying to kick it as short as possible within the landing zone to make it bounce awkwardly for the returners, to make the return more difficult. And you're going to have to forgive me because I'm blanking on the teams here, but there was this instance a couple weeks ago in which one of these kickoffs went over the head of the returner into the end zone, and he just completely blanked, forgot that that's a live ball even in the end zone. So the kicking team goes in, grabs the ball, that's a touchdown. So you find new interesting ways to enjoy it. You see the teams, they're trying to adapt because they don't fully understand the rules still. But I like the old one better, but I think it's necessary to do this so we have more returns, we have more interesting scenarios that help the game and keep it safer.
Let's jump over to you, Lucas. What are your thoughts here?
I would have to agree with Peyton and Brant here. I think that the new kickoff system is good in a sense of it adds more versatility to the kickoffs. But I would also have to say that the old one allowed for a lot more like kicker power, I would say. And I also want to say I don't think that in the grand scheme of things, I don't think that a kickoff or the new kickoff scheme should have been the reason that, you know, they lost the game. And I think because of that, I'm going to have to lean towards the old concept.
Let's go with you, Eli. What are your thoughts on this new kickoff rule?
Yeah, you know, I like it because we get to see, you know, more kickoff returns, and it happened in the Dallas game last night. Turpin returned the ball for Dallas, and he got, you know, Dallas started off at like the 45, 50-yard line. So I think it's better in that sense, but it does also, I like the old school kickoff rules because then kickers as well have more power. However, as a kicker, you have one job, kick the football. So I think that, you know, being a kicker, you have to know where that landing zone is. And so if you kick it short of that landing zone, then that's on you. And, you know, you go into that knowing what the rules are. And if, you know, you're trying to kick it short, yeah, obviously sometimes you're not going to get there. But if you're a kicker, you got to know the rules and you got to know where to put the ball to, you know, help your team succeed at the end of the day.
Can I make one final point?
Yeah, go ahead, Peyton. What do you got?
The onside kick is now not nearly as effective because there's no element of surprise. And that's where I wanted to end it.
Great points to end it. We're going to go across the score, you know, give everyone an update where they're at. We got Peyton in first place with 9. We got Lucas behind him with 5. Eli with 3. Brant sitting there at 2. We're going to stick here in the NFL. So what are your guys' feelings about the Detroit Lions just through 4 games? You know, we had that really bad game against Green Bay to start. Was that a fluke? Is Green Bay that good? What are our thoughts here? We're going to start with, let's go Eli right here to start.
All right, so, you know, being a Lions fan, obviously I'm rooting for them to do pretty well this year. The Lions, week 1, I do think it might have been a fluke. You had new offensive and defensive coordinators coming in. You didn't know, you know, they didn't know the scheme of things. They had all this offseason. The offensive line was really, you know, struggling. These guys didn't play in the preseason, which I totally think they should have because, you know, and they're going against Micah Parsons and arguably one of the best defensive lines in all of the NFL with Micah Parsons and Rashawn Gary. And then as well as, you know, but now I think, you know, they proved it in the Chicago game that if Jared Goff has time in the pocket, he can find the receivers and they have the talent to put up 50 points a game. And since that Green Bay game, you know, they've been scoring the ball very well and they've been moving the ball on offense, getting total yards. So I do think that that game was a fluke. And I really do think that Green Bay, I really think that we've seen them and their secondary has been proven that you can beat their secondary as long as your offensive line gives time to your quarterback in the pocket.
All right, let's go over to Lucas right here. What are your thoughts?
Look, just because we went up against the Packers, I would agree with you. Packers are a great team, right? It was a fluke, okay? It was week 1. Every single team in week 1 has numerous things to tweak after week 1, okay? Just because it was the Green Bay Packers, everybody after that game was so upset and so worried about the Lions. Look, it's week 1, okay? And even after week 1, we saw it. The Lions, they've been playing great after week 1, I would like to say. So I'm not worried with the Lions this year, but I will say I do not think they are going to be as good as they were last year. And I say that because of their away schedule this year. Their away schedule this year is wild.
We're going to quickly jump over to Peyton here. Lions, first game of fluke, how are we feeling here?
Let me tell you how we got to this point. Preseason, I understand a major aspect of that is to figure out what players are going to make the final roster. But you also have to play your starters so they're ready for the season. It's why it's called a preseason. You bring in these guys fresh for week 1 against a division rival. That's just ridiculous to not have played them before. Then you got Johnny Morton and Calvin Shepard. They're brand new. I did not like the scheme that Morton was bringing in to start with that first game. He starts switching it up for weeks 2, 3, and 4. A lot more success. And again, there's a lot of overreaction that comes from that loss to the Packers. Gone. As soon as they beat the Ravens, it's over. That overreaction flips to now you don't want to overreact in the other way and say we're so back and we're that type of Super Bowl contender now, which you still could be. But you have to be humble in it. You have to be ready for any scenario. But I think that was a big-time fluke, and that comes from a lot of factors, mostly that preseason and just kind of shifting gears into something new.
Let's go over to you, Brant, real quick here. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, it's my understanding that it takes about until week 4 to really know if a team is going to be good. And right now, we know the Lions can be good. Are they going to be as good as they were last year? I think we don't know yet. Like I'm in the agreement that first week was a fluke. Green Bay is going to be a tough team, but by the time we see them again, I believe in Thanksgiving, it's going to be a completely different ball game. It's going to be a completely different system there, and I think we can definitely take those guys on Thanksgiving.
Let's get your final scores because that's all the time we got. We got Peyton winning with 11, Lucas with 8, and we got a tie at the bottom with Eli and Brant. 5
Not
apiece.
last.
Hey,
Not
a tie's
last.
better than a loss. We saw it between Dallas and Green Bay last night.
That's
That's true.
And that will close things up for this episode of Sports Central. Be sure to follow us on all forms of social media. I'm Jackson Bickers.
I'm Eli Johnson.
I'm Brant Beach.
I'm Lucas Eisenhart.
And I'm Peyton Price. And this has been
Sports Central.